This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best all-in-one platform for all of your website building needs. Hey guys, it's Celestia, and if you've been active in almost any online art community in the past few weeks, you've probably seen this image. It's fan art of a character called Frieren from an anime and manga series called Frieren Beyond Journey's End, and it's gone viral on pretty much every major social media platform because half of the internet has decided that it's their life purpose to mock it. The other half, however, has pulled together in a shocking and overwhelmingly heartwarming effort to help and support the artists that made it. And it's that strange and oddly inspiring dichotomy that I want to talk about today. Because I've seen the internet relentlessly mock beginner art before. That's not anywhere close to news. But I've never seen that mockery turn into such an overwhelmingly positive, productive, supportive, wholesome online movement before. And it's so unprecedented and inspirational and fascinating that I just had to talk about it. Because as sweet as it ended up being in a lot of ways, the way this all happened in the first place was kind of messed up. And it gave us a really ugly look into the way beginner artists are treated online and how quickly people will tear them to shreds without a single thought. At the same time though, it also gave us a much more hopeful look into the way that artists stick with each other and share in each other's struggles and uplift each other when everyone else is determined to bring us down, acting as a beautiful example of how genuinely incredible the results of that can be. But before we start looking into how this completely innocuous piece of beginner art basically became a meme overnight and left the entire art community with some very, very mixed feelings about it all, let me first take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace. If you're an artist with any interest at all in pursuing art professionally, the first and most important thing you're gonna need is a good, polished, professional portfolio to display your work on, and show your clients that you take your craft seriously. And there is no better place to build one than Squarespace, which I consider to be the single best website building and hosting platform out there. I've used them for years to build both my previous branded cutesy portfolio and my new revamped, more professional version, and I can tell you firsthand that they make it so easy to build a portfolio of any style that actually looks good. Honestly though, that's not a surprise, because they make building any kind of site easy. They have a massive library of templates for literally anything, organized into a bunch of easily browsed categories. And that includes online stores, which it's just as easy to turn any site into with all of the tools they offer. The ability to manage payments and inventory, handle shipping and fulfillment, and even boost your SEO to help you get more eyes on your site and maximize the number of customers shopping there. But while it's great for selling physical goods like prints and merch, selling services like consultations, event management, editing, and even art commissions is just as easy with everything Squarespace has to offer. A streamlined workflow, built-in appointment scheduling, email marketing tools, and so much more. They also make it as easy as possible for your customers to pay, too, because they offer all of the most popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay, and even allow you the option to send individualized branded invoices to specific clients, so you can start accepting orders from all around the world with just a few clicks. Whether you're an artist in need of a portfolio, an entrepreneur building an online store, a creator setting up an interactive blog, or a small business owner making a landing page, Squarespace is the place to do it. And you can find out yourself by going to squarespace.com to get your own free trial today. Once you've built the perfect site that you're ready to launch, you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain by going to squarespace.com/DuchessCelestia, linked in the description. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video, and please go check them out. Alright, now let's talk about what the hell happened that turned this fan art into a meme apparently overnight. It was originally made and posted to Reddit by a user by the name of SpaceDev1, alongside a brief description of, "I practice drawing faces in a different angle, but it looks kinda weird, lol. And I'm not gonna be deliberately obtuse for the sake of toxic positivity. It's not great. The perspective, facial features, and proportions are very noticeably and significantly off, and it does look weird. But it's beginner art depicting one of the single most difficult angles you can possibly draw someone in, so of course it does. Obviously, I get that it's funny. That's not lost on me. The artists themselves said later that they posted it in the first place largely because they thought it was funny too. But funny in the way that flawed early attempts at anything are funny, where you laugh because yeah, it looks bad, but you either couldn't do better yourself, or you've been there and you very much couldn't have back then, because fuck that angle. That is not, however, the kind of funny that half the internet treated it as, because of course it's not, it's the internet. Most of them were not laughing with the artist, they were laughing at them. It almost immediately went viral as the subject of relentless mockery, being reposted all over Reddit alongside prolific insults that ran the gamut between lighthearted jokes jokes, and downright cruel ones. I heard some people say some Reddit users even reposted it claiming to be the original artist seeking critique on the piece, ostensibly trying to provoke even more insults much more directly. I haven't found any of these posts myself to substantiate that, but it's possible that they were deleted, or I just missed them. Either way, it wouldn't surprise me if it did happen, all considered. What's more important, regardless, is that the original artist didn't ask for critique. They just shared their art. I know a lot of people will argue that posting your art online is soliciting critique, but as I've said before in a dedicated video about unsolicited critique, I don't agree. In my opinion, posting your art online opens you up to receiving feedback that you didn't want or ask for, something that you need to be prepared for when doing so. But unless you outright ask for it, it's unsolicited critique and subsequently a dick move that you have no obligation to acknowledge, much less be grateful for. If you post a selfie online, you know that someone could leave a comment saying that you look like a deformed thumb and a chewed up piece of gum had a baby, because it's the internet. But you also know that if they do, they're an asshole, and you have a right to call them as much and dismiss their unwanted input. This is no different. Except in this case, it blew up so much that it wasn't just one asshole. It was thousands. Thousands of people relishing in the artist's humiliation, either outright and shamelessly insulting them, or thinly hiding bad faith attacks behind the guise of critique that they didn't even ask for. There were some that genuinely tried to offer helpful feedback, and may have even believed that the artist sought it out if it was indeed deceptively reposted, as I mentioned earlier. But they were a minority. Were being the operative word, though, because it didn't stay isolated on Reddit. It took no time at all to spread across all social media, to the point that I saw an article about it on Facebook of all places. And at least in my experience, something's gotta be pretty mainstream to be written about on Facebook. And once it did take off on a wider scale, the entire situation took an incredibly unexpected turn. A wholesome and inspiring one. Some people were redrawing the piece to make fun of it, sure, but opposite them were a growing number of supportive artists redrawing it in their own styles. Not to fix or improve it necessarily, but to show exactly how hard that angle is to draw in any style with any skill level. Everyone struggles with it, to the point that even a lot of experienced artists simply chose to tilt the head at a less dramatic angle because it was too hard to make it look good from that one. It went from a mockery and a meme to a massive, collaborative artistic movement of solidarity, inspiring hundreds of artists to challenge themselves to try something new and experiment with perspective while paying sincerely respectful homage to the original. Some expert artists even made in-depth tutorials on how to do the angle justice, not just for space dev, but for everyone participating in what had then become known as the Frieren Looking Up Challenge. It honestly almost brought me to tears to watch. I was so fucking mad at the meme. It was just another example of how both the internet as a whole and even other artists recreationally and thoughtlessly abuse beginner artists. I mean, we're out here throwing around pretty words like, even the worst human art is better than the best AI slop. Be proud of what you make with your own hands. And then we turn around and treat beginner art like this. It's so easy to just take a massive dump on someone's work at the most vulnerable part of their artistic journey and just keep scrolling, without giving a singular thought to the fact that a real human being doing their best made it, and might be so hurt by your comments that they give up altogether. You could argue that if they're fragile enough to be liable to give up as a result of hate, they shouldn't have posted their work to begin with, and I don't entirely disagree. It's why I always advise beginners who are even slightly struggling with insecurity to be very careful when choosing where to share their work. But some people overestimate the thickness of their own skin and underestimate the cruelty of strangers, and don't realize until it's too late how much the latter will pierce the former. There's also a big difference between being prepared for a few mean comments and being prepared for the mass scrutiny and criticism that comes with virality, which you can't be prepared for because you can't possibly predict if and when it'll happen. And that can break an artist. But it didn't here, and what originally drowned me in so much bitterness turned into something that filled me with hope for this community overnight. It turned into proof that no matter how toxic online spaces can be, artists will still band together and support each other and stand in solidarity. We'll still have each other's backs. Space dev was the internet's punching bag for a few days, yeah, but now they're the source and the star of one of the most inspirational trends in recent art community history. Frieren's English voice actor made their art her profile picture. Artists as prominent as Carla Ortiz, a famous illustrator and vocal advocate for anti-AI legislation and human artist rights, offered words of support and encouragement, and even her own rendition of the piece. Space dev garnered a massive and largely genuinely supportive following, and took the whole thing in so much stride that admirable doesn't even begin to describe their handling of it. Even when the mockery was malicious, they rolled with the punches and laughed with the people laughing at them. They shouldn't have had to, but they did, and I respect the hell out of that. And once things took a turn for the positive, they responded with gratitude for the support and advice, releasing this statement that read, "So my drawing blew up. It even became a meme. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sending me countless tips on how to draw faces in perspective. I'm happy happy that it inspired a lot of you to draw this apparently hard angle. I'm glad that you challenged yourself to do better than I did. I'm absolutely flattered that this drawing became Mallory Rodak's PFP. Thanks for that. I just shared it because it looked silly, but oh my god, the publicity, the tips. I didn't even know that drawing would touch that many people's soul. Thank you. I don't know what else to say except that I included a crappy Stark drawing to complete the family. Thank you. I don't know if this sounds dramatic. I just want to show that I appreciate all of your support. Their response showed so much more maturity and grace than anyone offered them, at least in the beginning, and it made me so happy to see that this didn't break them or their passion for art like I'm sure it would a lot of others. They even redrew the original piece implementing some of the feedback they received, and while it's still flawed and imperfect, it showed significant improvement that they should be incredibly proud of. They and the amazing artists that pulled together around them turned an absolute nightmare that showcased the ugliest side of both the internet and the art community into a beautiful movement that put a spotlight on the best side instead. And I can't express how sincerely, wonderfully heartwarming that is. But it's hard not to have mixed feelings about the whole thing, given how it started. The outcome was overwhelmingly positive, but what prompted it still boldly and loudly exemplifies the massive problem that we have with beginner bashing. This beginner happened to have the strength, resilience, and maturity to come out of this better. A lot of artists wouldn't. A lot would be crushed, and a lot are crushed because this happens all the time, just on a smaller scale that doesn't get enough attention for us to see it. The problem at the core of this entire debacle is still one that's actively hurting a lot of beginner artists, and one that we need to at least try to do something about, which is kind of the point of this video, because this whole situation also serves as an example of how we can do something about it. Stand up for beginner artists when you see them being dogpiled and insulted. Don't throw unsolicited critique at people who don't ask for it, and make sure it's constructive and helpful if they do. Remember that art is hard, and even if you're better than the beginners that you're seeing now, you were them once, and you know how difficult and vulnerable that stage of learning art is. Treat them how you would have wanted to be treated, not with judgment, but understanding. The art community showed Space Dev that they're not alone in struggling with the harder parts of drawing, and that's something we should all learn from and show to all beginners. Art is hard enough to make. We don't need to make it hard to share without fear of this, too. I've linked Space Dev's Reddit and Twitter in the description, by the way, so go give them a follow if you want to support them on their journey. They're already improving so much, and it's wonderful to watch. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Special thank you as always to channel members Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Haruki Saluzzo, Extinction Animation, Andy the Hedgehog, Kai the Memer, Jazz, Just Sayori, Stardust, Hailstorm, Darkholder, Another Foxboy, Pale Star, and Cyber Tori, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Jamisha Walker, Kunigyan, Crazy Asar, Gentong, Blah Mage, TC Pratt, Finn, Celine Merriman, Eldritchia, The Stray Dog, Decagon, Jenny Chan, Catbus, Lucy Amajiki, Selena Bibi, Pryday, Totally Shogun, Insomniac Sleep Schedule, Wing Tang Wong, Marie Greer, Potato, Jazz, Boyd Walker, Latte Tabby, Christian Cook, Adam Soroviad, Storiaki, Varius, Hailstorm, Emo Queen Jules, Lord Darkholder, Show, That's It, Craig, Stardust, Scarlet Flame 234, The Names Are Gone, and Lubuka Owo, and I'll see you in the next one.